Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that's all about speaking your truth, sharing your stories, and sparking the conversations that matter most. I'm your host, Rodney W. Collins, and this is the Speak On It Show. On this show, we dive deep into the thoughts, experiences, and ideas that shape our world. It's a place where voices are heard, perspectives are celebrated, and discussions are not just encouraged, but cherished. Whether it's culture, politics, personal growth, or just life's everyday adventures, we're here to explore it all. We've got engaging interviews, thought-provoking discussions, and sometimes we might even stir the pot a little bit. Speak On the Show is where we challenge the status quo, celebrate diversity, and engage in conversations that make us think, laugh, and grow. So get ready to be inspired, get ready to connect, and most importantly, get ready to speak your truth. Without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. It's time for the Speak On It Show with your host, Rodney W. Collins. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. I am Rodney W. Collins, and this is the Speak On It Show. First and foremost, giving honor to the God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there this morning? Hope everybody had a good week. Hope y'all didn't miss me too much last week. You know, it happens. I'm going to take a little hiatus. Had some things going on and everything, but I got some good mornings already. Brian Hoodie, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. James Battle, my brother, good morning. Appreciate you. Terrence Collins, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all for tuning in this morning. Appreciate anybody that's watching, listening, wherever you may be. Thank you for continuously supporting me, supporting this show, supporting what we do here on the Speak On This Show. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook on the Rodney W. Collins channel. Like, share, subscribe, do what you do, share it with others. If I say something you like, share it. If I say something you don't like, share it. You know, it's gonna hit somebody somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Reggie P. Rowe, my brother, good morning. Appreciate you. It's gonna hit somebody somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I got a good one for y'all this morning. I got a couple things I want to talk about in the news, but I got something that I really want to dig into that happened this week, revolving around some chat groups. So we're gonna get in that in the straight talk segment of this show. But I want to start off today and say, anybody that knows me knows that I don't have an affinity or a fandom for a specific team or anything like that. I like sports, I watch sports, but I've never had an affinity or an affection for any individual team. Just never been me. I don't buy the jerseys, I don't buy the hats, I don't do any of that. It's just not me. But I've become a diehard Las Vegas Aces fan. Now, women's basketball is not everybody's cup of tea. I played a lot of basketball in my time. I watch a lot of basketball, men's basketball, college basketball, whatever you want to call it, you know. Women's basketball has grown on me since I've been watching the Las Vegas Aces, and I watch other games as well, but I got a certain affection, and it's not because of the championships. Let's be clear. I've been going to games since they got here. I've been watching games and everything, but they won their third championship in 4 years. And I had the opportunity, and my wife had the opportunity to go to the parade yesterday. And let me tell you something. Women's basketball, as much as they want to talk about the fans aren't there and this, that, don't let them fool you. The media has one narrative, the visuals have another. There were a lot of people out there, and I'm talking about young girls, young boys, in that crowd out there yesterday for the parade. And it showed me that women's basketball, as far as the WNBA and as far as NCAA, has a fan base that is not given the notoriety that other sports are. Now, will it reach the pinnacle of what NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball? No, but we need to look at it for what it is. Women's sports have a big footprint in a lot of places, but I don't think the media gives it the due respect that it should. I'm going to be one that's going to give it the due respect, because being out there yesterday, watching the games on TV, you see the crowds and everything like that. You don't really get the real feel of it until you're in it. And it may have been just because of the parade. Who knows? I mean, I've gone to some games where they're always sold out here in Las Vegas. But I wanted to say that and start off that because there's something about seeing the young fans, the little boys and little girls out there cheering for the Asia Wilson, the Jackie Youngs, and Chelsea Gray, and the whole Aces team. It kind of made me look at things a lot differently and made me feel like I'm not a one-off because there was a lot of men out there as well. I'm not a one-off. But I want to give a shout out to the Aces for the third championship in 4 years. And in my mind, body, and soul segment today, I'm going to touch on something that I observed while I was at the parade yesterday that I really think is important, not for just what we see with athletes and entertainers, but us as a whole. So I want to get into that a little later on. But yeah, we're going to get this show going, man. I'm going to start off within the news because I got something I want to talk about that's really, really important that we all need to be aware of and we should all be following. Some other things that have happened, but we're going to get into this. As I said, we're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook on the Rodney W Collins channel every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on your dial. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let's make this not just a show. Let's make this a movement, a speak on it movement. All right. So we're going to get into that. And let's go on and get into the news. Let's go. In the news. There's a lot of things that have been going on with this administration we've been talking about for a while. We've been talking about it for a while. We've been highlighting it for a while. But let me start with this. Let me just start with this because I want to make sure that we're all clear. That when you see me put this up, or when I mention this in my diatribe, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. You know I'm about to spit some fire. I'm about to bring something to you that I think we all need to be aware of because there's things that are going on that we've talked about that a lot of people tried to say weren't going to happen that the wheels are in motion of happening right now as we speak. And those people who said Project 2025 is not going to happen, they can't do it. This is for you. This is for those people in the cheap seats that said that these things wouldn't happen. As I tried to talk about on this show, numerous, and until I was blue in the face about Project 2025. And one of the things I want to talk about this morning is something that we all should be aware of and we all should be watching and paying attention. Because I want you to think about this before I get into this article about something that was said after the election. Something that was said by this person sitting in the Oval Office after the election. He said something about going out and voting because this may be the last time you actually have to vote. You remember that? I don't make these things up. Do you remember that? And in Project 2025, it mentioned the Voting Rights Act. And that's what I want to get into today because the Voting Rights Act is under scrutiny. And it's at stake because there's a case at the Supreme Court right now that could change everything that has been dealt with the Voting Rights Act and what we know to be true as far as what rights we have to be able to go vote. The Voting Rights Act was signed into law in 1965. African Americans have been allowed to vote in elections for the past 60 years. I want you to think about that for a minute. For the past 60 years. 60. Only 60. After an oral argument in the Supreme Court that's disputing the congressional map in Louisiana, there could be significant changes to the Voting Rights Act, that may potentially weaken it. The Supreme Court is reviewing a case centered on Section 2 of the Act, which prohibits electoral practices that diminish the voting power of minority communities. According to the Supreme Court blog, and Wednesday's oral arguments over the Calais versus Louisiana case marked the latest development in a dispute that began in in 2022 after Louisiana redrew its congressional map following the 2020 census. Although about 1/3 of the state's population is Black, the new map created only one majority Black district among the 6 total. A group of Black voters challenged the map in federal court, contending that it violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which prohibits racial discrimination in voting practices. However, a group of non-African American voters and the state of Louisiana challenged the new map, arguing that it was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. Now, I want to stop there before I get into this other part, because I want you to think about that last part. It says, challenge the new map, arguing that it was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. Now, we all have seen and we've all heard this argument back and forth about redistricting and the gerrymandering that has been going on by the Republican Party. We've heard it for years. It's been going on for years, where they've changed these redistricting so they can get a majority in that district to be able to put in the Senate or the House or wherever you want, any of those places, even locally. But now, with the Voting Rights Act, they're pushing back, saying it's unconstitutional on racial basis to have this gerrymandering done when they've been doing it racially this whole time. But it's in front of the Supreme Court now, and they're having the arguments and everything. And from what I've seen and what I've read, and I didn't go in detail to everything, but these are the things that they've been intending to do for years. Project 2025 just laid it out for everyone to see. It's always been talked about behind the scenes. Always. And the part that I don't think people are really paying attention to is the fact that this seems, let me say it like this, this seems on the surface to only be affecting African-American Black people in this country. However, the Voting Rights Act didn't only help and allow Black folks to vote. This is going to affect everyone's right to vote and the way you vote, no matter what color you are, no matter where you sit, no matter what political party you are a part of. And if you're a Republican and you're okay with this thing that they're doing with this pushing back on the gerrymandering because it's racially motivated, compared to what they're doing when it's racially motivated by Republicans, and you're a Republican and you're okay with this, that tells me where you stand. You're not about equality. You're not about anything that deals with equal playing field. You want to tilt the game or the field in your favor. So I'll ask this question to you. If you feel that way, how do you think that you're going to have people in these positions, or the political party in the positions, that are going to do right by all the people in this country rather than just a few? See, when we talk about these things, I think people need to really step back for a minute, and you can erase and you can take off the D and the R. You can take off the Democrat label, you can take off the Republican label, but I want you to look at it as a human being with voting rights in this country. Do you want this country to be strictly putting people in office by their votes by people that it was done before the Civil War? Where if you didn't own land or anything like that, you didn't vote? Because the only people that voted then was white landowners. Now let's take it to today. Are you looking to have constituencies in your district, overseeing your district, that have no care for everyone in the district except for the ones that look like them? Because this is the route that it's going. But a lot of people want to step back and say, well, no, they can never make it happen. Well, they said nothing in Project 2025 would never happen. We've seen government jobs lost. We've seen these tariffs that are causing inflation, causing us to pay more at the grocery store, at the pumps. He said he was going to lower prices. That hasn't happened. So when you talk about these things, and that's why I will continue to say this, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. In all instances. In all instances. But then we have those people that are in denial who say, no, that's not true. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. There's nothing worse for me as a black man. And I'm going to speak for me personally right now. There's nothing worse for me as a black man and my experiences in this country to see these things going on, to know the experiences and the history of this country, and to know that these things are happening now, and my own experiences in my travels in this world, and to know that there's still people that don't look like me that tell me what I'm seeing is not real. What I'm feeling, I should not feel. What I'm hearing is not in context of what's being said. So my question to them would be, if I'm seeing everything out of context, if I'm seeing everything that I'm seeing, but you're telling me it's not real, then let me know what the reality is. Because once you get in these arguments or these conversations with people who tend to tell you what it's not, they can't explain what it is. They can only push back and say, well, it's not true. Well, tell me what is true. This is where I think we, when we have these conversations, need to have the wherewithal to push back on these people who say, no, this is not true. This is not true. Well, tell me what is the truth. Tell me what is the truth. You tell me what is the truth, because we're fighting battles against people who don't want the truth. And they don't want the truth because they know the truth. They don't want to express the fact that they know the truth and they know what's going on because, as I said before in one of my shows, and people try to push back when I posted it, most of the people that voted for this will not tell you they voted for this. But this is what they voted for. And now that these things are coming to fruition, the chickens are coming home to roost as we look at the farmers and all these other people complaining because their industries are suffering. Now what? This is not, and I want to make sure I say this clearly. This is not a black, white immigration issue. This is an American issue that is affecting everybody on American soil. And I know I'm veering off a little bit from the Voting Rights Act, but I want to tell you, I'm trying to get you to understand how all this goes in, because, this is unscripted. I don't go by everything that I write down. I just go off the cuff. But I want to bring this up. We have people losing jobs in this country. We have people who have businesses that are folding. We have people that had prominent jobs that are now having to apply for Medicaid, Social Security, and things that they're making cuts to. We have this so-called big, beautiful bill that the Democrats said we're not going to go along with that unless you put some protections with the Affordable Care Act. And they said no. So the Democrats didn't sign it. So now we're in a government shutdown, not because the Democrats didn't sign, because the Republicans didn't negotiate. But we have all these different things going on, right? All these things going on. But at the same time, this government, this administration has found money somewhere to send to, I think it was Venezuela, Argentina, one of the countries that has nothing to do with what we got going on right here. We can find $20 million to send to a foreign country who has people in this country that they're trying to send back to that country because they say they're illegal immigrants. But we can't find money to make sure that we're taking care of the people on this soil right now. The rich are getting richer. The middle class is getting poor, and the poor is always forgotten. Which way do we go? So when people want to push back on me, when I bring these narratives, when I bring these stories, and I put my own experiences into them and push back on me and saying, well, you're pushing this, you're pushing that. I'm pushing truth. Because what you fail to realize is those that want to push back from the cheap seats are the main ones who are going to be affected, just like me, just like my family, just like your family. They're going to be affected one way or another. They just haven't realized it yet because they feel, and I'm going to say it this way, they have the complexion for the protection. And I want to talk to also those who have my complexion that choose to support this administration. Where your family at? How's your family dealing with this? That you still, as a black man or a black woman in this country, or someone that they consider an immigrant in this country, brown people as they like to describe them, that can still say they support this administration with everything that's going on that is affecting your family members who didn't vote for this? Is your ego so big that you can't admit that you made a mistake? Everett Allen, good morning, little brother. Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Michelle Summerall, good morning. Appreciate you. I get passionate about these things because, I'm not going to say the quote again. But I'll use my own quote that I like to say. You can't spit in my face and tell me it's raining. Not when everything that was written in Project 2025 has come to fruition and you're still in denial that this man and this administration and the people, the puppet masters behind him, weren't putting this in place after his first 4 years. But the denial is what gets me. That's the part that I don't understand. How you can still deny everything that you're seeing. When you go to the gas pumps, you're pumping the same gas that I'm pumping. Maybe a different grade, but the prices are the same no matter what. When you go to a grocery store, you were complaining that Joe Biden's eggs were too high. The egg prices ain't changed, but everything else has. Everything else has gotten expensive under this watch, but you're not upset. People are being dragged off the streets because they look a certain way or they fit a description that the Supreme Court said is okay to do. And you're okay with that. This is where the rubber meets the road for a lot of us in this country. Because from my point of view, and I look at it this way, I'm not only looking at it on how it affects me. I'm looking at it from a viewpoint of how it affects everybody I know, everybody I may interact with, and the family members that they have. And if I can't have that view at 59 years old of a world where everybody is looked at and everybody suffers from certain things, and I can't have compassion for that. Let me put it this way. Let's get some of these comments real quick, but I'm going to break something down to you. Share some raw truth. OT, facts. Appreciate it, bro. OT, speak on it every week. Good morning, sis. Good morning. Appreciate you. So let me just say it this way. We have the Voting Rights Act under attack. We have $20 million and more plus being sent to Argentina, Venezuela, one of them. I can't remember. Y'all excuse me for that. You have Ukraine coming back to the White House asking for certain missiles to fight Russia. You have what happened in Israel and Gaza, supposedly this peace treaty where they're still shooting each other. They gave hostages back and everything. You got all these different things going on in this administration where this man's wanting the Nobel Peace Prize for wars that are still going on to this day. There is no peace. Let's just be real. There is no peace. But you have all these things going on. And people that support this administration, don't have compassion for those that are suffering because of what this administration is doing. But in the same breath, they want you to have compassion for an individual who spewed hate towards certain people, certain races, on college campuses, infiltrating the minds of young white kids to bring them on board to what's going on that white nationalist Christianity thing, whatever they got going on. And because he was killed because of his views, you want us as a collective to have compassion for him and his family in spite of what he said about all the people that are being affected. But you don't have compassion for the people who are innocent bystanders in what this administration is doing to this country. make it make sense. On a full scale, please, somebody, make it make sense. I've never understood how you can have people who have this tendency, and I'm going to say tendency, to display racism towards folks, and then people give them the benefit of the doubt for their actions, knowing full well what they said was out of line, what they said does not align with humanity and equality in this country, but you want us to have compassion when something happens to those type people. However, in this country, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but in this country, and I'm just going to use an example of the black man in this country, is never given the benefit of the doubt on any damn thing. Not by white society, not by his own community, and not by people outside of these borders. And if you feel, anybody listening feel, especially those in the cheap seats that will not comment but will still watch and have their comments, if you feel that I'm saying something that is a lie, feel free to push back, but come with facts. Because I'm speaking from fact basis, being a black man in this country who has been around this world. And for most people, war is not the biggest threat to this country in their eyes. The biggest threat to this country in their eyes is people that look like me. Look it up. Look it up. I don't have to just throw things out there. I'm telling you from experience. I'm a threat just because of my melanin content. But the ones who are a threat are not considered a threat while they're carrying around an AR-15, while they're spewing racism, while the Karens are calling people out and all these type things. They're not a threat. They're not a threat. Because this country has been conditioned to accept that. It's not conditioned to accept me or those that look like me. And then when you have people like Screaming A. Smith sitting on these airwaves, continually denigrating our black women, and then black men who play sports, not on the level of what they do on the field, but how he feels about them. It just shows you that it's easier for some to slide over to that side to try to fit in than to stay in who they are and stand out. It's that simple. John Chaney, it's called racism. Yes, it is. And anybody engaged in this behavior is racist, period. Goes without saying. Goes without saying. But I'm going to switch up from that for a minute because I really want to touch on this here because I think everybody needs to be aware of this. And you've always heard me say, I don't want you to be consumed with the things I talk about, but I want you to be aware. And this is something that I think we all need to be aware because this happened in Virginia. This happened in Virginia. It doesn't specify if the family was black. However, it doesn't need to because it involves masks. And we know in this country, anything that involves masks usually deals with some type of hatred towards somebody. A family in Virginia speaking out after a recent Halloween prank went too far. Late Tuesday evening, there 3 individuals wearing Halloween masks and costumes were caught on footage from the family's doorbell camera ringing the bell, making violent threats and attempting to enter the Alexandria home. At first, I thought it was just a Halloween joke, a little prank, said Shayla, the widow's daughter who lives in the home, So I said, Happy Halloween. But within minutes, the incident, which occurred around 10 p.m., turned frightening. With one of the masked individuals dressed as Michael Myers from the Halloween film franchise, the group began pounding on doors and windows. They then went to the back of the house, tearing down the gate, breaking through the screened-in porch and banging on the rear windows. Based on footage, the trio shouted threats to kill the family and warned either you're coming out or we're coming in. Even as Shayla and her brother inside the home yelled that they were calling the police, eventually the group fled. Now, I bring this up because this is a tactic that's been used for years. With the slave patrols, with the KKK, and now with ICE. And I understand how people celebrate Halloween. I'm not a Halloween guy. I don't do it. Not me. Most of my community don't. Let's just put it out there. But when you see this, standing in your driveway, weeks before Halloween, and then ringing your doorbell, threatening you and things like that, what does this tell you? We're in a time where people will look at this and say, oh, they were just in Halloween. They were just having a good time because they're given the benefit of the doubt. But if I'm looking out of my door and I see this on my Ring camera, how am I supposed to react? The reason I'm bringing this up this morning is I want everyone to be aware of the different tactics that are being used at this time. It may not be to this extreme, but there are a lot of people who are out to harm people because they see these pardons. They see what ICE is able to get away with. They see the way that the police and all these people are able to handle people now with no retribution whatsoever. So things like this, what are they going to do? And now that Halloween is 2 weeks away, will it ramp up? I just want everybody to be aware that when you go to your door or you answer your door or someone rings the doorbell at your house, don't be so quick to open the door. Don't be so quick to engage with these people. Because you don't know at this time, in this environment, and in this climate, who has your best interest at hand. I worry about our elders. I worry about some of us that live in suburban communities. I worry about some of us who have to drive long ways back and forth to work. I worry about us as a collective. Because we've seen just this week, they found a young Navy cadet not that far from the University of Navy campus, found him dead. I haven't seen all the details of the story. Somebody can chime in and let me know more, but not saying there's foul play or anything, but it raises an alarm. A young black man. From my eyes, it raises an alarm. May not for you if you're not black. But these are the things that I talk about that I want people to be aware of, because there's a certain time where you sit back and you ask, these things just seem to happen so often, where our bodies are found somewhere and nobody knows anything. Or we're hung from a tree and nobody knows anything. Or we're threatened by people in masks and nobody knows anything. So I just want people to be aware. These are the things that are going on. These are things that are happening around us that I think we all need to be aware of. It's racism in this country is rampant. Racism in this country has always been rampant. It's just a certain the common denominator that tries to tone it down. And that would be mainstream media. Mainstream media is built to not put the truth where the truth needs to be. Let's just be honest about it. Mainstream media decides what to put the truth on and what not. If everybody remembers at one time, mainstream media, when you watch the news, it started off with all crime every day. And most of the crime that they highlighted dealt with people of color. And they interviewed somebody in that neighborhood that wasn't very per se articulate, maybe didn't look the part, but they wanted to put this image out there of everyone that they were talking about looks like this, talks like this, acts like this. We all remember it. We all seen it. And this is not to put it to minimize the people that they were interviewing at that time or anything like that. They were pawns in a chess game. They were pawns in a chess game. That's it. But we see it now, and then when we see, we're so gullible to these things. When we see the young women with the bonnets on, traveling at airports and things like that, we cringe and everything like that. Let them people be who they are. Do I agree with everything? No, I don't. But let them be who they are. We got to get out of this mode that if one person is dressed like this, that it shows bad on all of us. Let that go. Because the white society, the white race never has that problem because they never put everybody in one bucket. But we do. And then we fall right into it when we start looking at them in a different way because they choose to dress a certain way. I'm not saying I agree with it, but let them be them. They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. Trump has given them permission to be more overt with the racism. What's in comes out. If racism is not in you, it won't come out. Well, yeah, and here's the thing. And I remember someone told me this years ago. I can't remember who it was, but he said to me, a racist will not let you know they're racist until they feel comfortable being racist. A racist will not let you know they're racist until they feel comfortable being racist. So those little jokes people be sharing and everything between themselves, that they whisper and everything, that's a racist that's not comfortable. They're racist, but they're not comfortable in their racism. What you're seeing now is that people are comfortable being racist because this country, these administrations and everything have allowed these people to actually show how they truly feel to their core. And that's where the difference comes in as far as when we say that person's racist. See, and I'll say this again because I've said it many times, but I want to reiterate it. People that have been subjected to racism can identify a racist. So those people out there who say that person's not racist, if you're trying to tell me, who's been a victim of racism, when I tell you that somebody's racist and you try to push back and tell me they're not racist, I want to see what analogy or what information or what experience you have to let you know that what you say makes me sound like I'm lying. Everybody of color, even minorities in this country, know racism when it happens. They know racism when they see it. Some choose to overlook it because they try to fit in rather than stand out. But we all know. And here's the other part. You know. White people know who's racist. White people know if they're racist. There's no, I'm kinda. There's no, well, I may have said this once or twice. You either racist or you ain't. And you know which side of the fence you stand on. You know. Racism is one of the easiest things to see, but the hardest to prove. But here's the thing, John. And that's a true statement. But my thing is, who do I need to prove it to? That's the thing. And don't get me wrong, I get what you're saying. But I think that's where I think we have fallen short sometimes. Like we have to prove that someone's racist. But I go back to the fact of there's been evidence put on black folks that served 30, 40 years in jail, and nothing's been proven that they ever did what they did. So if we use that same analogy, if I say somebody racist, damn it, in my opinion, they racist. It don't matter what nobody else feels. It don't matter what nobody else feels. Because I'm going by the way that this country has been towards black folks. If I can be sentenced just for the simple fact that I'm a black person and somebody said I fit the description of someone who robbed somebody and had to serve 20, 30 years in jail, damn it, I ain't got to prove nothing to nobody else. That's just me, though. That's just me. Don't everybody use that, but that's just me. James Battle, also making it illegal to act on your racism. in the workplace and everywhere else, there are no consequences anymore. Yeah. There are no consequences for certain people. And I want you to hear this. Let's just be honest for a minute. If I go to work at this time without the coverage of HR and different things like that, and something happens that I feel is racist towards me, and I go, who do I go to now? Who do I go to? There is no factions in HR of, diversity, equity, inclusion. There's no affirmative action offices. There's no offices in most of these companies anymore for you to go to have an advocacy to defend what you feel is being done to you. So who do you go to? But if I say something out of my mouth about the person who was unalive not too long ago, and someone sees it where I've posted it or I said it or anything, and someone goes and tells HR, they may walk me out the door. There's been a lot of people that have been fired because of their comments about the person that was unalive. But if you say anything bad about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you get a pass. If you say anything bad about Jasmine Crockett, talking about she's ghetto, this or that, you get a pass. See how that difference works? Our verbiage comes from experience. Their verbiage as a racist comes from an opinion of how they feel about us. But I'm held to account for what my experiences are. They're given the benefit of the doubt because of how they feel about me. Which way do you go? You can't. Let's get into this straight talk. Let's go. Straight talk. Sorry about that. Y'all had a little technical difficulty. Straight talk. Today's straight talk. I want to touch on this because it goes into what I just was talking about. There's been a report from Politico. Politico's a media aspect does reports like The Root, the Griot, Politico. They do news, not mainstream media, but they do news. And they did an investigation. They found Telegram conversations between leaders and members of the Young Republican National Confederation and some of its affiliates in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. Mother Jones, which is another publication, reports that public records indicate that 8 of the 11 Republican operatives who took part in the offensive chat appear to range in the age from age 24 to 35. And then this week we had the Vice President of the United States, the person that sits in that office, said kids do stupid things. Kids do stupid things. So I want to bring this up because I want to be clear. I want you to look at these ages of these people that were identified, that they're saying kids do stupid things. These are the ages of some of the main people that were in this telegram spewing racism and their opinions and everything like that. They had messages in there. I love Hitler, all kinds of different things. They refer to black people as monkeys, and the watermelon people amused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide. A lot of Republicans who they believe support slavery. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used the words, the N-word, and one with the A and one with the G-U-H at the end. Variations of a racial slur more than a dozen times in the chat. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to rape as epic. Peter Guinter, who at the time was chair of the same organization, wrote in the message sent in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. He was referring to an upcoming vote on whether he should become chair of the Young Republican National Federation, the GOP's 15,000 member political organization for Republicans between the ages of 18 and 40. Now, I'm not going to read through all this because we already know. We already know the blueprint. Find it out and then deny. Find it out and then deny. 31, 35, 28, 29, 24, 24, 27, 27. Kids. They're calling them kids. Kids do stupid things. I want to put this in first for a minute. I want to bring this to your attention because kids, keep that in mind, kids. Because in Washington, D.C., they recently lowered the minimum age at which a minor can be charged as an adult for certain crimes to 14 years old. This change came through a bill passed by the House in September of 2025, part of a broader federal push to reshape D.C.'s criminal justice policies previously under D.C. law. Juveniles under 18 were typically tried in family court. Those 16 and older could be charged as adults for serious offenses like murder, armed robbery, or first-degree sexual abuse. Now, with the new legislation, 14-year-olds can be tried as adults for specific violent crimes. The move has sparked intense debate, with critics arguing it undermines DC's autonomy and risks over-penalizing youth, while supporters claim it's necessary to address rising violent crime. Stop right there. We're talking about 14 years old now have the ability to charge 14-year-olds as adults. But they're calling these people kids for what they spewed online. Why? Because there's no consequences for them spewing these things online as far as they're concerned. Kids will do what kids do, but not if you're an African-American black kid in Washington, D.C. that commits a crime, because kids make mistakes. Kids do stupid things. 35, 31, 28, 29, 24, 24, 27, 27. Kids? Kids? Are we for real? J.D. Vance. That's what kids do. Vance diverted attention to Jay Jones, a Democratic nominee for Virginia Attorney General who recently came under fire over leaked violent messages from 2022, tweeting that his texts were far worse than anything said in a college group chat. He wrote, "I refuse to join a pearl clutching when powerful people call for political violence," alongside a picture of one of the text conversations. Then Vance doubled down on his comments in an interview on the Charlie Kirk show, calling Jay Jones' comments 1,000 times worse than what a bunch of young people, a bunch of kids say in a group chat, however offensive it might be. Grow up, he said. I'm sorry, focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chats. Vance then said, at 41 years old and 3 kids, he's an old guy who grew up in a different world. So the stupid things he did as a teenager and young adult are not on the internet. I'm going to tell my kids, especially my boys, don't put things on the internet. Like, be careful with what you post. If you put something in a group chat, assume that some scumbag is going to leak it to cause you harm or cause your family harm, he warned. So basically, he's telling his kids, you can say whatever you want about anybody in any way you want. Just don't put it on Facebook. Don't put it on the internet, because people will see it and then they'll tell somebody. Not to correct the action, but not get caught for the action, is what he's telling his kids. Now, mind you, his wife is an immigrant. So his kids are part immigrant. But he's putting in their mind that they're above the law at a young age because they have some of his blood. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. Because the same people he despises are living in his house. The same people, the person that sits in the White House is married to, he despises those type people. But they're married to them. They're married to them. Calling them kids to minimize the responsibility. Kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes like that's what kids do. He said he doesn't want people to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive, stupid joke, is a cause to ruin their lives. At some point, we're all going to have to say enough of this BS. We're not going to allow the worst moment in a 21-year-old's group chat to ruin a kid's life for the rest of the time. That's just not okay, he continued. We're all going to have to say, you know what? No, no, no. We're not doing this. We're not canceling kids because they do something stupid in a group chat. And if I have to be the person who carries that message forward, I'm fine with it. These are the people that he's calling kids, 21-year-olds. There is no one on this list that is 21 years old. None. But they're just stupid kids, saying stupid things, telling stupid jokes. Well, you do stupid things, you get stupid prizes. That's what I've always been told. That's what I've always been told. But someone pushed back, and this is what they said. J.D. Vance says it's okay to joke about gas chambers, rape, and watermelon people. But if you quote Charlie Kirk, you'll get your visa revoked. Let me read that for them in the back, in the cheap seats there. J.D. Vance says it's okay to joke about gas chambers, rape, and watermelon people. But if you quote Charlie Kirk, you'll get your visa revoked. Kind of like locker room talk. Yeah, when he said grab women by the... My mama's watching, so I can't say exactly what he said. Y'all know I can't do that. But I want to get into this. That's a caveat to what we've been talking about here. And I wrote this down, and I'm going to read it because I think it's something that goes hand in hand with what this shows, with what this actually shows. And it's through history how this has happened. Michelle Summerall, I didn't see the whole list, but are the prez and VP on there? They say stupid stuff all the time on the internet. Nah, they ain't on there, but I'm pretty sure they seen it. They probably members, but they just view. You know how people watch my show, but they don't log in. They just watch it because it don't show up on their algorithm. Yeah, probably. James Battle, there are still kids when they're 79, 80 years old. Look at the guy in the White House. He says crazy, racist things all the time and never any consequences. Just excuses. Just excuses. And that's the thing. And that's what I want to get into now. Thank y'all both for leading into my next diatribe in this straight talk segment. Because I want to break this down as simple as I can. Kids versus animals. Kids versus animals. The language that protects whiteness and criminalizes blackness. It's the language of crime. It's the language of excuse. It's the language of dehumanization, and it sounds like this. He's just a kid. She's an animal. He's just a kid. She's an animal. When white youth commit crimes, whether it's vandalism, assault, or even murder, the media, the courts, and public opinion rush to soften the blow. They're troubled. They're troubled kids. They're misguided. They're kids who made a mistake. But when black youth are accused, suddenly they're thugs, predators, animals, same age, same crime, different label. Here's an example. And we just talked about this. A young Republican group chat. Men in their 30s joking about rape, slavery, and praising Hitler. Excuse me. What did the headline say? Kids at 35 years old. Now flip the script. A 15-year-old black boy accused of robbery. He's not a kid. He's a menace, a repeat offender, a threat to society. That's not justice. That's narrative warfare. Words aren't neutral when it comes to this. They shape perception, they guide sentencing, they justify policy. When you call someone a kid, you're saying they deserve grace. When you call someone an animal, you're saying they deserve a cage. Let me repeat that part right there, because I think that's something that a lot of people, those folks, I'm talking to y'all, but I know they listening. When you call someone a kid, you're saying they deserve grace. When you call someone an animal, you're saying they deserve a cage. We can even dig deeper into this. Central Park 5 were called a wolf pack, while Kyle Rittenhouse was called a patriot. Black protesters are called rioters, White insurrectionists are called concerned citizens. This isn't just bias, it's a system of linguistic protection for whiteness and a system of linguistic punishment for blackness. And what they don't realize, or they do realize, the language that they use has consequences. Black men receive 20% longer sentences than white men for the same crimes. Black youth are more likely to be tried as adults. Black defendants are less likely to receive plea deals. And in public opinion, white violence is explained. Black existence is criminalized. And we're not just fighting laws, we're fighting labels. So what do? We confront the comfort. We challenge the headlines. We correct the language in real time. Next time someone says he's just a kid, ask this question. Whose kid? Whose kid? Miss Ella Mae's kid or Miss Dorothy's kid? Because see, there's two different kids we're talking about when we're talking about Miss Ella Mae's kid and Miss Dorothy's kids. Or excuse me, Miss Ella Mae's kids and Miss Karen's kids. Let me put it that way, Miss Karen's kids. Next time when someone says they're animals, ask, whose humanity are you choosing to erase? Justice begins with language, and language must be disciplined. And if you're still calling grown white men kids while calling black youth animals, you got some clarity work to do. You got work to do if you're still calling grown white men kids while calling black youth animals. But you know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. John Chain goes back to Frederick's own Roger Brooke Taney saying we less than human. Yeah. It's always been portrayed that way. It's always been portrayed that way. And the thing is, what we've seen this week with this, it's not a one-off. It's not a one-off. This is something that has been going on for years and years and years in this country. And it will continue to go on because you have people in this country who feel the way they felt in those text messages on their group chat that will continue to feel that way until the day they die. They may not say it to your face, but their actions will show you exactly where they stand. Exactly where they stand. Let's get into the mind body. So let's leave here on a good note this morning. Let's go, y'all. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. This year, 2025, we've been concentrating on the 3 Ps. Purpose, power, and possibility. With purpose, I align my actions. With power, I claim my strength. And with possibility, I embrace the endless opportunities life has to offer. And today's mind, body, and soul segment, I want to go back to what I talked about in the beginning of the show when I talked about the Las Vegas Aces and the parade they had yesterday. And I want to bring up something that I observed. Because when we see athletes, when we see the teams, whether in any sport, we see the ones they put out front that are the stars. We see the Asia Wilson, the Jackie Young, the Chelsea Gray, the players, and the coaches, the assistant coaches. You may see the owners, depending on who they are. If it's Jerry Jones, you see him all the time. If you see other managers, owners, you really don't see them too much. But I wanted to bring this up because while I was at the parade and while I was observing things, there was about, before the team bus with the players on it, there was like 3 or 4 buses before that. And on those buses, I recognized, Asia Wilson's father, the owner, and then the VP of the Aces. And then I seen a lot of support staff and everything. And what I want to talk about this morning is the fact that we need to learn, or we need to do more of appreciating the role players in our lives. I bring that up because when I was out there, I'm concentrating and I don't want to see the players. I want to see that last bus because I want to get pictures of them holding the trophies and everything like that. You know, don't judge me. I know I ain't a fan guy, but I was yesterday. Don't judge me. But I'm waiting on that bus, and as I'm standing there and I see the first bus with the owner and the executives and different things like that, then I see the second bus with the family and everything, then the third bus with the the people that work in the organization, and then finally we got to the team, which is all the screams and hollers are for the team. You know that because that's what everybody sees. But I thought about you, and I thought about everything that you go through in life, everything you accomplish in life, everything that you want to do in this life. Never forget your role players. And when I say role players, I'm talking about friends, family, supervisors, people that you've worked for before, mentors, anybody that has touched your life to try to give you some type of guidance to become a better you. That's who I'm talking about today. That's why I want you to start thinking about the role players in your life. See, we always hear about the stars, you hear them say Michael Jordan, or you hear them say LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and all these different things, but you never hear them talk about role players until they start digging into the fact of he didn't do it by himself. Because someone has to say that in the conversation for people to start looking at it and say, wait a minute, he had a lot of help. And so do you. We all have help in different mates. I talked about a helpmate a couple weeks ago on my anniversary show. And I think it's something that we need to really look at in a different view, because none of us are here and where we're at by chance. We didn't get here alone, and you're not going to continue making it through this life by yourself. And I say role players because I put it in a sports context, but I want you to look at it as the people who are helping you become a better you, a better version of who you were yesterday that they're helping you become today. Role players in our lives call out our bullshit. Excuse me, Ma. I just had to put it in that text. They call out our bullshit when it needs to be called out. Role players will help guide you when you're going down the wrong path. We've had many people that have directed our path in a different way because they've seen us going down a path we shouldn't be going down. Role players put you on the trajectory of where you need to go. If you talk to them and be honest with them, they can help you more than you realize. None of us are immune from trials and tribulations. None of us are immune from failure. The thing is, you have to know that you have people that are supporting you in every step of your life that are going to help you become better than you were yesterday. You just got to know and show that you appreciate them for the role that they play in your life. So as I seen those buses rolling by and I seen all the people on there, and then we got to the end and all the cheers are for them, they would not be able to accomplish the things they accomplished this year without all those people in those buses in front of them. From the owner down to the towel person, down to the ball boy, down to the person that manages the clock. None of this would have been able to be accomplished to be a champion in the WNBA without those role players. None of us would be able to do the things we do each day without the support of our role players. Don't take them for granted. Please don't take them for granted. Learn to appreciate them and let them know. Not only are they a role player in your life, but they're an integral part of your life and the successes that you're attaining in this life. Don't take that for granted. Please don't take that for granted. Appreciate your role players. Appreciate your role players. I'm going to go ahead and sign off from that. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I'll be back again next week, same time, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Rodney W. Collins channel on YouTube and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, do what you do. And I appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the commentary. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And we're going to continue giving you what you're looking for on this show every Saturday morning. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all again next week, and I'm out. Peace.